Today, we are going to see on the topic called independent system operator in the pool markets. Okay, so you know what is independent system operator, ISO. Independent system operator is an entity or an organization in the restructured power market that manages the wholesale electricity market, ensuring that power grids operates the safe, safe, safety, and as well as the reliability. So it ensures the two operation. One is safety, and reliability. Now we are going to discuss in detail of how this independent system operator operates in the pool market or pool market. Okay, so it acts as a neutral operator. So no one it is giving any importance. Say, for example, all they need to consider independent system operator have to consider all the participants in the market are same. That means fair operation to all the participants or all the generation companies and transmission companies and even the retailers. So, meaning it does not own any power plant. That means ISO won't even own any power plants or transmission line, but it simply coordinates with everyone in the market. That means all the entities with the generation companies, transmission companies, and distribution companies. They'll just coordinate with all the things in the market. So this ISO operates mainly in the deregulated electricity market, like some parts in United States of America, next Australia, and in some other regions. So in this market, electricity is bought and sold the power to the power pools. So what is this? So power pools, how the power pool works, you already know in detail. Just we'll see a glimpse. So in the power pool, what we'll do? We'll just bid. So power pool is mainly meant for. So first we are generation companies will submit their bids. Okay, so that much. So which shows that how much cost that they need. They which this generation companies can produce this electricity, and also buyers are demand agents. Okay, so that means retailers will submit also the bids, how much electricity they need. Okay, like that. Okay, based on that, this ISO will decide. So which company is bidding bids low. So based on that, ISO will give the contracts to the that retailers to produce the power, and they need to ensure that in end users they need to they'll see the power. So now, what is the optimism? So ISO also runs this optimization program, such as this economic load dispatch problem, and as well as the unit commitment, to find the least cost generators, such that it should also meet out the total demand. Now, this ISOs in the Pulco market have to calculate this market clearing price. So, market clearing price is what? So, that means generation bits and the supply bits should be equal. Okay, so that means um, whenever this generation bits, generation companies will submit the bits. This supply companies also will submit. So whenever this point getting equal, so that price is called market clearing price. That is the winning price in the market. So this ISO calculate this market clearing price. That means the price at which this supply and demands are equal. Next, generators whose bids are accepted, they will call the generation companies to schedule the power. That means they need to produce the power and schedule based on their bids and based on their uh, hours. That means how many hours they bid and how many hours they need to give the power. That they need to ensure. This ISO to ensure. Now, in the real-time process, this ISO sends the control signals to the generators to actually this to match the demand. actually to match the demand is matched or not. That also, say for example, sudden rise in the demand. So this ISO has to contact this generation company such that they need to ensure that demand is satisfied or not. And also considering this transmission limits. So transmission limits also they need to consider such that this also they need to monitor. Now, what are the key roles of independent system operator in the Poolco markets? So first, they need to ISO has to check the grid reliability, and also ISO has to operate the wholesale market. Okay, and ISO has to ensure fair access is given to transmission access or not, whether the fair access is given to transmission companies or not. So ISO also has to promote the transparency and independence to all the participants who are all participating in the market. Next, it has to plans and forecast. Okay, and if the demand is rising, they need to contact this generation companies to increase the particular power. Next, also ISO also to manage this congestion such that it has to maintain the reliability. Okay, reliability in the power system. That also they need to monitor. So these are the some of the key roles of ISO in the Poolco market. So we are going to see in detail each and everything. First, how to maintain the reliability in Poolco market. So what is the role of ISO to maintain this reliability in the Poolco market? So ISO has to ensure the electricity supply always matches the demand. So whether the demand is matching, because then only they will give the contract to the generation companies to generate the power. That is one main thing. Next, the ISO has to manage these reserves and handle emergencies or disturbances. So, for maintaining the grid reliability, ISO has to manage some reserve generators such that any emergencies or any outages, anything happen, any disturbance happens, such that they need to maintain the reliable supply 24 by 7 into 365 days. They need to monitor the reliability in the system. Next, ISO has to prevent this blackouts. So sometimes blackouts also will be happening. So that means islanding operation. Sometimes due to any fault, this whole system will be islanded. So that also ISO has to be ensured in this Poolco markets by monitoring system condition every second that ISO has to maintain. So if any particular second or minute blackouts is happening, they need to immediately they need to take the responsive actions from the generator companies, or they need to approach the spot market, or they need to operate these reserve generators. So everything they need to monitor, and they need to maintain this grid reliability. So next, ISO has to operate this wholesale market in this Poolco market. So in the Poolco market, the ISO has to operate. So the ISO has to run this day ahead and real time markets. Okay, day ahead market means, say for example, what is the tomorrow's load. Based on that, in one day again itself, they need to plan for this demands, and they need to call for the bids from the generation companies, and they need to call for the bids from the this retailers, such that say for example retailers, for example, they are giving 100 megawatt as a tomorrow's load. So they need to call for the bids from the generation companies. So generation companies also will submit the bids such that they need to produce the power for tomorrow's load. Next, real time market. ISO has to run this real time market. Real time market, suddenly the demand rises. So so some generation companies will be there. So always they will generate some 50 megawatt or 10 megawatt, like that. They will supply this this particular generation to the grid. Okay, so immediately they need to run this real-time market also. Next, ISOs has to collect the bids from the generation companies and as well as the retailers or transmission companies also and distribution companies also. Already we have seen in detail the structure of the restructured power market that you need to ensure. Next, ISO also has to schedules the generation and settles the payment to the generation companies from the retailers. That also they need to. Next, the ISO has to determine the market clearing price by using this optimization models. Any optimization models are AI related softwares. They need to use predicting method. So they need to always determine this market clearing price such that the consumers should not affect. Okay, and also they need to identify the bids from the generation companies such that the generation companies has to give the reliable power supply to the consumers. Next step, ISOs in the Polco market has to ensure the fair transmission access. So that means ISOs has to manage this transmission systems. That means transmission companies um, just even though they are not owning, that is a secondary thing, but they need to just manage this transmission companies. And also the ISOs has to provide the open and non-discriminatory access to all the market participants. So they should not give only um, say for example discrimination to only you need to only take the power, you need to only generate the power like that. They should not. So it should be ISO in the Fulco market has to provide open and non-discriminatory access to all the market participants. That is very very important in this transmission access. And also it needs to um, supports the healthy competition among the suppliers. So whether say for example competition, say for example they need to identify the least cost transmission network such that uh, all the transmission companies in that particular market will automatically reduce their prices. So they need to support ISOs in the Purco market have to support healthy competition among these suppliers also. Next, the ISOs has to manage the congestion also. Whenever the power transmission lines are overloaded, so ISOs has to adjust these schedules. Okay, such that say for example they need to select some other transmission network such that that particular area that consumers has to receive the power with a reliable supply. Next, ISO uses the congestion pricing to signal where the grid is stressed. So congestion pricing, say whenever the grid is congested, so they need to use this congestion pricing. So such that this transmission companies will not make this transmission network to make the congestion. Okay, so if congestion has happened automatically, then the pricing will be more to the transmission company. That will be the loss for the transmission company. So if they do like that, they will not make this transmission network like in any congestion. Next, ISO ensures the safe power flows across the network. So power flows that also they need to monitor, and whether the transmission companies also maintaining the safe power flows, okay, reliable power flows or any without any congestion, that also they need to monitor. This ISO has to monitor. Next, ISO has to plan and forecast. Okay, forecast the power. For example, the future demand, the next year demand, how it will be, or after 5 years, how it will be. So, whether to go for more renewable power sources that particular area, or any any other some other solar panels, solar PV generation system they need to install. Like that, they need to go for that future electricity demand. Next, ISO also has to plan and plans upgrades and ensure that there is enough capacity for the future. It means generators is available or not. So if the renewable resource is not there, then you need to go for some other alternative, some nuclear power. Like that, they need to plan in that particular area. That is called distribution. In that particular area, what is the resource available? Based on that, they need to plan for the future. Next, ISO has to promote transparency and independence to all the consumers. Say, but I said no. So whatever happening, that should be open. They need to do all those bits, everything in the website. Okay, so such that consumers, retail consumers, or like domestic consumers can easily know what is happening in the market, like stock market in the Indian system is there, na? Stock market, how the stock they are monitoring. So everything they need to make it open, such that this ISO as a neutral organization, no bias towards any generation companies or any transmission companies or any distribution companies or any utilities, that they need to ensure that this Poolco market. Next, ISO in the Poolco market has to ensure the market rules are followed fairly or not. So all they need to follow this market rules, whatever the rules framed by the ISOs. They all the generation companies, all the utility companies are following or not. That also they need to ensure. In countries like US, so ISOs are supervised by the regulators. For monitoring independent system operators, there are some regulatory commissions there. Federal Electricity Regulation Commission. So this Federal Electricity Regulation Commission will be always monitor this ISO, whether they are maintaining the rules, whether they are following the reliability, whether they are doing fairly to all the. So that also monitoring agencies also should be needed in the Poolco market, such that no bias, okay, no bias, or all will be non-discriminatory manner. All will be happening in this non-discriminatory manner. So that also ISO, that also for monitoring ISO, this regulatory commission also should be set up in different countries based on your some name will be changed, but say for example if you take the countries like India, regulatory commission is there. So regulatory commission, if you want to raise a single rupee of tariff also, a single paise of tariff also, this you need to get the approval from the regulatory commission. So regulatory commission has to give the permissions such that to increase this much 50 paise, to increase 1 rupee, like that. Then only they will be allowed to increase the tariff. Even either it is a government owned entity or either it is private owned entity. So that regulatory commission you need to strongly frame such that no one bias should not happen to any of this particular generating companies or retailers or transmission companies or distribution companies. So that one, this ISOs has to monitor in the Poolco market.